What's going on, everyone? My name is Eric and you're watching the Get Me Out of Here vlog. Today I'm in the town of North Platte, Nebraska. Behind me is a giant cutout figure of Buffalo Bill Cody. He was a legend of the American West and he lived here in North Platte. According to the sign, this was his home from 1878 to 1913. And this, here in North Platte, is where he started his first rodeo and his first Wild West show. So back in the day, Buffalo Bill Cody was a cowboy here in the American West, but he later became a showman. And his Wild West shows were some of the largest entertainment attractions back in the day, in the late 1800s, not only in the United States, but also in the world. He toured in almost every major city of the USA and into Europe. And this is where that was birthed from. This is where the Wild West show began, here in North Platte. And behind me is Fort Cody Trading Post. This is probably the largest tourist attraction in the state of Nebraska. It's been open since 1963, located right along Interstate 80. And we're gonna check this out today. I've never been here, don't know much about it, but this looks like a roaring good time. So let's go inside the old trading post and see what they have in store. The sign here out front, greetings from Fort Cody. Since 1963 here in North Platte. And above me is some kind of soldier with a gun in his arm, with a rifle in his hands. And look at that, it's a giant kachina. These are Navajo spirits. I'm not really sure why they have that on display here in Nebraska. That's very common in Arizona, but you can see here the trading post. There's a lot of like Civil War era looking soldiers standing guard. That guy got shot in the butt, looks like, from an arrow from a Native American tribe.
Took an arrow to the butt.
Took an arrow to the butt. That wouldn't be a good place to take an arrow. And look, beware, tourist trap. I'm glad I can't climb that high. Might get my arm caught in that. Standing inside the largest roadside attraction here in the state of Nebraska, and look at all of these trinkets and gifts that they have at the store when you walk in. So much to take in, so much to look at.
It's rough. It's tough.
They got John Wayne toilet tissue that you could take home. What does that say? A man's got to do what a man's got to do. It's rough, it's tough, and it doesn't take crap off anyone. Wait, wouldn't you want this to take the crap off of you? Maybe it doesn't work that well. John Wayne. Don't take crap from no one. Pilgrim. They got rubber chickens. Look at this, they got rubber chickens. Interesting. Lots of wooden caricatures on display from the Wild West. There's some buffalo. Yeah, I think is that supposed to be a porcupine? I'm guessing that's a porcupine. But so much to take in here at Buffalo Bill's Trading Post. They even have dragons. Oh, sweet, you can get a coonskin cap. They even got Davy Crockett coonskin hats. Look at this. The American West. This is awesome. I really feel like a true frontiersman now. I'm totally gonna wear this around Nebraska going forward. This is amazing. Look at this. Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. Look at the size of this bowl that they've got hanging on the wall. His face looks kind of funny. It looks like he got punched in the face or something. His face is a little flat. That is a strange looking bull, but right there they've got some information on him. Golden Battle 131. He was calved on March 22nd, 1961 and lived to be 8 years old, lived to be 13 years old. He was a landmark sire and used until he was 13. And now he's hanging on the wall at Buffalo Bill Cody's fort. Even John Wayne is repping his Fort Cody t-shirt, the home of Buffalo Bill. And speaking of t-shirts, they have a lot of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies on display for sale here as well. Look at this. All with Nebraska pride, trains, and Buffalo Bill Cody. memorabilia. How's that checkers game going? Make your move, partner. Make your move. Holy cow, and I literally mean that because there's a two-headed calf here on display. Look at that. That is so weird. And what's going on? Some music's playing now. Oh, there's an actual show. Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, and I've read online that this is one of the largest displays of folk art in the United States. There's over 20,000 miniature figures here that is supposed to recreate Buffalo Bill's Wild West shows because they were birthed out of North Platte, Nebraska.
Hope you enjoy your stay here in North Platte, Buffalo Bill's hometown. The Bill Cody's Wild West show originated right here in North Platte in 1882. It toured around the world and its winter headquarters for the game. Note the two light plant wagons. This was the first Old Glory Blowout, the first organized rodeo in America. You're hard to practice. Miss Oakley traveled many years with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show at Buffalo Bill. On to the Indian Village with its war dancers, TVs, and target contests. Cody recruited him. I'll bet he's the hardest worker in the show. Just look at him go. Dressing tents, barber, the mess tent, cavalry, cowboys, Indians, plus riders from foreign lands, including South America.
Now this is the key attraction here. It's 20,000 carved figures reenacting Buffalo Bill's Wild West shows on display. And they do a show every 30 minutes where some of these figures actually come to life and move around. This is absolutely incredible. It's one of the largest folk art displays in the United States. What do we have here? We have a peeping Tom looking into the women's dressing room. And if you look over at the men's, there's a skunk. There's a skunk outside. So it looks like at one point, you can see the track there. All of these figures must have paraded around this track. Unfortunately, it's not operating anymore, at least it's not today. But that would have been something to see as well. That whole track looks like it must have moved at some point. Look at that, they've got an original Wild West show flyer circa 1886. And here's a picture of Lillian Smith, who toured with the Wild West show, known as the California Huntress and the Champion Girl Rifle Shot. Buffalo Bill's Wild West show was one of the largest attractions the world had ever seen in its heyday, attracting millions of people from around the world. Buffalo Bill truly is an American icon. He has a very unique story. In fact, I've seen his museum in Golden, Colorado, and seen his final resting place on top of Lookout Mountain near Denver, in the town of Golden, Colorado, on the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. But Buffalo Bill himself, early on in life, actually was in the American cavalry. He was a part of the Army and fought Indians on the American frontier. He actually had a change of heart later on and ended up befriending many of the Native American tribes and chiefs and invited them to tag along with him on his Wild West shows, where he treated them very well and advocated for their rights. He also was a huge advocate for women's rights in the late 1800s and early 1900s. In fact, Annie Oakley, who was a great shot, a rifle expert at rifles herself, was also a good friend of Buffalo Bill. Her and other women entertained on the Wild West shows and were treated very well by Buffalo Bill too. So he really was a pioneer in advocating for Native American rights and women's rights in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So he truly is a remarkable person, an American icon, and a symbol of the American West, a true showman. Here's a mannequin of Buffalo Bill Cody, wearing clothes that he would have worn at the time of the Wild West shows. It's amazing how colorful some of this attire was when you think of the late 1800s. You know, all we see are black and white photos, but there was a lot of color back then as well, just like you see today. Take a look at this hat rack made out of multiple buffalo horns. People would hang this on the wall and hang their hats on the horns. That's so wild looking. A multi-horned buffalo. Here's a rawhide rifle case made from buffalo. A buffalo skull that was found here in North Platte in the riverbank, the Platte Riverbank. And here's a buffalo hide coat. That thing looks really warm. Oh, and mittens too, buffalo hide mittens from the late 1800s, circa 1880. And this is cool. This is an old slicker made in 1902 and advertised by Sears, Roebuck and Company in their catalog. Definitely romanticized in movies today. The old gunslingers walking through town with their slickers on. Can't help but think of Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven when I see this. Look at all of these guns on display and grenades. Well, anyway, they've got guns on display here from the Old West for sale. And look, they've got arrowheads too that the Indian tribes would have used. You can get them $12.50 for an arrowhead. You don't see these very often anymore either. I used to buy these all the time at Disneyland as a kid at the Pirates of the Caribbean gift shop. But they've got toy rifles and cap guns. That's awesome. Look at this. Yeah, these were fun. I used to have a bunch of these as a kid. And look at this. You can also get bows and arrows. That is awesome. Go outside in the backyard and shoot at targets. Very cool. So they got a lot of fun things to get at the gift shop here.
You want to hear fortune from Medicine Man? Come here, I tell you.
Medicine Man. It's like those Zoltar machines. That's cool. Get a fortune from Medicine Man. Look, it's a funhouse mirror. Whoa, wacky wavy. I don't know why they have this here, but it's fun. Look at that. Looking all weird. Hey, I look better like this anyway. It's my true form. It's my true form. Walking outside the fort, check this out. We got an old log cabin and a muffler man and some other Wild West things. The Fort Cody jail, an old wagon, a schooner. That's what they called these. I think that's called a prairie schooner. The old prairie schooner, the Oregon Trail. They got a jail. And over here, there's like a log cabin. You can pose as Buffalo Bill riding a horse. Let's see what we got in here. I don't know if this is an actual historic log cabin taken from the prairie or if it's just a reenactment. You can see a cowboy in there with his lass. Oh, whoa, there's like a skeleton back there. What the heck? There's a skeleton back there in the cabin. What's going on, Gramps?
Call the sheriff.
Call the sheriff. We got trouble. Connor, you being Buffalo Bill?
I am Buffalo Bill.
Bucket of Bronco?
I don't know why you called me Connor.
Oh, I don't know either. Buffalo Bill. How's it going?
Stuck in this position. Can you help me out?
Maybe. Your neck looks like it could be a little sore. Hey, Buffalo Bill, who did you kill? Buffalo Bill. It's a Beatles song, I think.
Very nice.
Oh, gosh, it's hard to plow in the Old West. I'm working the fields, Jebediah.
You ready to go plow guard?
Oh, it was a lot harder than it looks. A lot harder than it looks. Thank God for John Deere.
I know. That ain't no joke.
Look at this muffler man, dressed as a Native American. We saw a lot of these on our Route 66 road trip, so I always get a kick when I find a new muffler man. that I didn't know about. But look at this one. This one is awesome looking. These muffler men are fiberglass giants that are located. They're located all over the United States. They're an iconic roadside attraction. And here we have one at the Buffalo Bill Fort, standing tall. That is awesome. He even has an arrow supporting him from the back. That's really cool. I like that, a little nod to the American West. I love these muffler men. These are so cool. Just crawling between his legs here. That is amazing. I don't want to take an arrow to the knee. Well, howdy, partner. Had a great time here at the Buffalo Bill Fort. Have more things planned today, so let's keep moving along, keep moseying along, they say. Well, got my coonskin cap, and we've got one more stop today to show you here in the great town of North Platte. So let's keep heading on. See you later, Buffalo Bill. Well, you look at this. Behind me is the Golden Spike Tower. This opened in 2008, and we're going to take an elevator all the way to the top. It's 8 stories tall, and this overlooks the world's largest railway yard. This is the Union Pacific Bailey Railway Yard. This is the largest train yard in the world, not just North America, the entire world. So we're gonna take an elevator to the top. Let's check this out. It's funny, just walking in, I can hear just an endless chorus of train wheels screeching on the tracks. It's just constantly in the air. It's funny. Walking in, they've got some information here. This is Ed H. Bailey, the man that created the world's largest train yard here in North Platte. And that's also the man that it is named after, Bailey. Here's some information on William A. Riley Sr., who, according to this, was the first African-American locomotive engineer to be hired here in North Platte at the age of 18. Worked for Union Pacific for most of his life. We've got some more information, too, on Buffalo Bill, who grew up and lived here in North Platte. In fact, his house is here as well. I won't have time to see that today, but sometime in the future, I want to come back and tour Buffalo Bill's homestead. Well, without further ado, we're going to take the elevator to the top of the Golden Spike Tower. And they've got 2 choices here. There's an open-air deck on the 7th floor. We're going to try that first. And on the 8th floor, there's an observation deck that overlooks the world's largest rail yard.
After you, sir.
Thank you. Look at the train here on the wall of the elevator. It's very appropriate. Absolutely incredible. During World War II, the North Platte Canteen served over 6 million World War II officers and enlisted men on their way to war here in North Platte. That's wild. The North Platte Canteen, it says here, became the most famous in the United States. On an average day, the canteen would serve 3,000 to 5,000 servicemen. Toward the end of the war, volunteers from North Platte and the surrounding communities greeted as many as 8,000 military travelers each day with free sandwiches, coffee, cookies, cigarettes, and friendly smiles. Pretty amazing to think about. A town here in the United States, North Platte, Nebraska, a place that not a lot of people know about or even think about, served millions of enlisted soldiers during World War II that passed by here on the world's largest train yard on their way to war. It's a very historic spot, and very few people know about it. It's pretty wild. Here it is, the world's... Oh. That's pretty loud. That was cool. Is that a train? That was a loud train whistle, if that was a train.
I think it was a cow.
Everything got quiet. Oh, that was kind of weird. Everything just got really, really quiet. Oh, here comes some more trains. here it is, the world's largest train yard. Union Pacific's Bailey Rail Yard, the largest in the world. This is absolutely breathtaking, this view. Over 10,000 trains can be at one time in this rail yard. Just overlooking the Nebraska prairie.
Destinations.
So say that again, Connor? So right up there on top of that hill, they're breaking the train cars apart.
Yeah, and then they organize them using gravity on top of the hill, so they roll down.
Oh, so they use that makes sense. Gravity to make them roll
on different tracks to get their destinations.
Wow. Yeah, you can see that car rolling down the hill there on the left. It's fascinating.
You can read all about it upstairs.
Oh, there's a whole nother museum upstairs? And right next to the rail yard is a pasture full of cows. This may be the most Nebraska scene ever. Cows dotting the prairie landscape in a massive Union Pacific rail yard. And the screeching of steel on the tracks, the wheels on the tracks, you can just hear it permeating the air everywhere. The musical chorus of trains. Absolutely incredible to be looking at and gazing upon the world's largest rail yard here in Nebraska. Now it's called the Golden Spike Tower because it's a nod. Now the Golden Spike Tower is called that as a nod, a tribute to the completion of the Transcontinental Railway. A golden spike was used and hammered into the ground in Utah, I believe in the 1870s, when the Transcontinental Railway system was completed here in the United States. So they call this the Golden Spike Tower as a tribute to that event. Just in case you were wondering, trains have a 3-foot overhang on either side of the tracks. So stay back and stay alive. Sizing up Union Pacific's number 4014 steam locomotive. Look at that, compared to a Boeing 747. The plane is a lot bigger than the train. I never really have thought about that, putting the two together, but wow. That's how big a Boeing 747 is. But to put this in relation with a car, your car compared to a train would be like a pop can compared to a car. So don't try to race a train. Just don't do it. It will crunch your car like a pop can. Up on the 8th floor, there's another museum with some more information on the history of the railway system here in the United States and North Platte. This isn't the actual Promontory Point Golden Spike. It's a replica, but I wanted to correct myself. I said 1870s earlier. The actual ceremony and completion of America's first transcontinental railway happened on May 8th, 1869. So I stand corrected. It was close, but stand corrected here. And that was at Promontory Point in Utah. In 1866, the first train entered what was then known as Hell on Wheels Town, also known as North Platte, Nebraska. And then here it says that a 20-stall roundhouse complex was built in 1868 here in North Platte, and that really marked the beginning of what is today the world's largest rail yard.
And this was back in the 70s. So, we went down into both. Two of them sat on the opposite side of the cab.
A lot of train terminology here. One that caught my eye was the shoe fly, also known as a temporary track used to avoid an obstacle that blocks movement on the normal train section. It's called a shoe fly. The more you know. The gift shop here has some of the most iconic Nebraska things, Cornhuskers and Kool-Aid. Believe it or not, Kool-Aid was invented in Hastings, Nebraska. There's a museum there that I've been wanting to check out. Love this train nerd magnet. There are people, and I know a few, that are obsessed with trains. In fact, they will travel all over the United States to observe and watch train. So I just living in Chicago for years, there's a lot of famous rail yards in Chicago that people will just sit all day and literally watch trains. I don't get it, but some people are really, really into trains. They've got a train obsession. I guess that's a thing. Speaking of train nerds, what in the world is this ferroquinologist? Fancy word for rail fan. Wow, what an amazing place here in North Platte, Nebraska, just off Interstate 80. What an amazing place. Really is full of Wild West history, historic train yards, and fun roadside attractions. Definitely make your way out here if you're ever traversing across the Great Plains here in the United States. Well, it's been fun, but this is Eric with the Get Me Out of Here vlog, and it's time for me to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Here's Buffalo.
Here's Billy.
Here's Billy. Giddy up. Giddy up. How's it going, Buffalo Bill?
Can't get out. Help me. My head is stuck.
Here, I can slap you.
Oh.
Get out of here. Get out of here.